The John, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I fucking love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Costa next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole.
They're a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
Well, it's great to be home. It's great to be back in South Florida and great to be with you fine people. It is Monday, July 19th, episode 309 of the Anik and Florian podcast. Throat cracking right off the top. Ken Flo, looks like you're home too.
I am home. It must be nice for you, man. I know it's been a little while. Must be great to see the family again and been working your ass off, man.
So how about this? The kids are not home. Nobody's home. They're all in New England. So Riley comes home from overnight camp tomorrow. So my two other children and my wife will meet her at Bradley Airport in Connecticut tomorrow morning, and then they will all fly home together. So I'm home right now with no children. Hashtag no excuses to not be sharp and ready to go today, despite a red eye on Saturday night. But needless to say, very excited to see my family after 16 days apart. And again, to all the military men and women across the world, I truly don't know how you deal with this separation. I think for me, inherently, I'm not afraid to lean into my feminine side. As you saw when I talked about Miesha Tate still nursing on the broadcast this weekend, I'm an emotional guy. I'm a homesick guy. So for me, I really don't know how I would deal with 3 months away from my family. I will be bawling my eyes out when I see them at the airport tomorrow. I don't know what the longest you've ever gone. I know you fighters oftentimes have to check into a mental toughness channel that ceases to exist in my mind. But the separation is hard. I ain't going to lie to you.
Absolutely, man. Especially when you throw into the equation kids, right? I mean, there's just obviously anyone who's had a kid, there's a special bond there. And I haven't been away for that long, but I think next month I may be away for that 2-week period. So
there you go. But you'll be with me in South Florida, and I'm basically like a brother.
Yes.
So okay.
Exactly.
And in terms of me softly referencing the fact that Miesha Tate is still nursing, somebody asked me, hey, if you could go back, would you not utter that line over 8 hours on a headset? Was that a regrettable utterance? And I don't know, right? I mean, like, I think for any of us whose wives have breastfed and nursed extensively, you know the toll and you know what that takes. So the fact that Miesha Tate would be nursing her son before going to the UFC Apex, to me, is pretty incredible. But maybe I could have left it on the cutting room floor. His fans get really upset sometimes when I go.
Why? Why do people get upset about that stuff? I don't know.
Well, I do think that generally speaking, it's more the younger demographic that doesn't understand how that could have any relevance. And I guess I would suggest to you that what did Miesha Tate post on fight day as she returned to competition for the first time in 5 years? A video or a photo of her nursing her son, essentially in her fight kit. So it's a very real thing.
Yeah.
But it's great to have everybody with us, and thank you for checking back in. I know a decent part of our listenership and viewership actually threatened to never tune in again after last week. I do want to address briefly the UFC 264 recap, and perhaps I could have articulated my opinions a little bit better in terms of some of my support for Conor McGregor. Certainly, if you have listened to this podcast over the years, you know there's been a lot of appreciation and love for Dustin Poirier, and perhaps there was not enough of that a week ago. And if that is the case and you felt that, I do apologize. But to those who suggested in the comments that you have lost eternal respect for me based upon some of my opinions last week, that scares me, right? Because I feel like we've established a lot of goodwill with this podcast over 6 years. I feel like as a UFC commentator coming up on 10 years, I hope I've established enough goodwill with the audience to not lose respect in totality with one opinion. Because if we can't voice our opinions here, which essentially is the essence of our show, then I don't know where we can voice it. So I appreciate the audience. We appreciate the feedback. We obviously take it very seriously.
Right.
Ken Flo, do you have anything to add as a former 3-time world UFC title challenger?
Yeah, no, listen, I think that we are going to come at it from a different perspective than, say, the fan, right? And I think that, I guess to clarify as well in regards to that, I don't think John and I are in accordance with what Conor McGregor said in regards to threatening people's lives, and that's not cool, right? But at the same time, having been around Conor and knowing Conor, the businessman, Conor, the promoter, You know, it's he's kind of a character of himself there, and he's not really trying to do anything other than promote the fight. Yeah. There's better ways about going about it. There's classier ways than going about it. And for Dustin Poirier, he has been consistently classy, a consistent professional, and won't resort to any tactic to promote a fight. He lets his fighting do the talking. He's an amazing fighter, amazing champion. And that's pretty much it. Conor, is who he is for a reason. But he has also been willing to say anything and everything on the mic to get it done. You may not agree with it, but there's a reason why he's, one of the wealthiest athletes on the planet. And that's it. I think that's kind of where I was coming from. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think neither of us likes when the vitriol obviously goes that far, but I think generally speaking, I just don't get as caught up in it, I guess, as somebody like Paul Felder does, who is wildly offended. And I know most of you align more with Paul than me, and that is okay. But just know how much we appreciate every last one of you. And that's why I at least wanted to acknowledge it off the top. And I'll also say too, because depending on the Sunday morning, I'm either a promotional shill or the opposite of that, right? And it just comes with the territory. I understand that over 7-8 hours on a headset, I'm going to offend somebody. But that show came a week after Ken Flo essentially uttered on these airwaves that the Gon Lewis interim title fight was essentially a fuck you to Francis Ngannou. So don't group Ken Flo in with me, guys, okay? Because he ain't taking a check from the promotion. And if anyone has kept it real on this show over the last year or 2 or 6, it's Ken Flo. All right, headlines: UFC Fight Night, Makhachev versus Moises. By the way, had a big golf hit. I don't know if you saw my Instagram, Ken Flo. I hit on Colin Morikawa to win the British Open at 37-1 when I was in Las Vegas. So
dang.
So it was 50 to pay 1,900, but I qualified it to let people know I had $600 on John Rahm. So I was rooting for John Rahm because I would have won like $7,000. And
wow.
He hit the ball beautifully yesterday, but we'll take the little hedge on Morikawa. But we'll leave with Islam Makhachev and not the British Open. So clearly you saw by the reaction of Khabib Nurmagomedov and Islam Makhachev, they prioritized a finish here. They felt like in terms of this matchup and the level that they perceived themselves to be at, that they had to get Thiago Moises out of there, and that's exactly what they did. What did you make of Islam Makhachev's performance over the weekend?
Thank goodness I changed my prediction to the 4th round. Hey, listen, it was very impressive. These are the kind of things that you want as a fighter, right? Where you're trying to prove to yourself first and foremost, but also prove to the promotion that you are worthy of more opportunities like other main events or, fighting other top contenders or fighting for the belt. And what better way to do it in a main event like that against another tough opponent in Moises? And Makhachev proved that he is of that quality. I think there's been a lot of pressure on his shoulders. A lot of people have talked about his legendary training sessions and how good he is and compared him, of course, to one of his mentors, Khabib Nurmagomedov. And he went out and delivered an amazing performance. I think not only did he largely shut down Moises for the majority of that fight, he then started pulling away to the point of complete dominance and getting a finish, controlling another Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt like he did, and doing as well as he did on the feet, showed that he is going to be a problem. He is absolutely the real deal. It's only going to add to his confidence as a fighter. And I think now he's going to be deserving of those top 10, top 15 guys for sure.
The Khabib Nurmagomedov comparisons are not going to stop, right? You got one guy who's 29-0, the other guy who is 20-1. And based upon everything that I see and read, it seems as though the public perception is that Khabib is a little bit of a better natural athlete, but in terms of mixed martial arts skill and talent, it's very close. I mean, I got to think there are things that Makhachev does better than Khabib. I got to think maybe some of his chokes potentially could be, there's got to be something that he does better. But
well, I'll say his striking, his striking straight off the bat looks cleaner to me. He looks a little less reckless than Khabib does. But he's a problem, man. There's no doubt about it.
a little bit lighter on his feet, maybe. Even when he goes for some
Yeah.
of those trips, I think there's a little bit more speed with which he goes about them, but he is just a super impressive individual. And, Thiago Moises was largely unfazed. I am excited to see his future. Again, he was born in 1995. He's really just getting going. So
Yeah.
there's a whole Moises side of this. But in terms of Islam Makhachev, I just can't emphasize enough how blown away I was by him during fight week and on fight night. In our fighter meeting, his comprehension of English really is off the charts. His speaking English is improving every time we sit down with him, and he's not cocky. Like, he's just a confident kid. He really isn't cocky, but he's acutely aware of self, and I think he knows how good he is. And as Miesha Tate said, I mean, she was a quote machine this week, but confidence is costly, and a lot of these fighters have paid the price. They put in the time, and that results in a lot of confidence. So what do you do with Makhachev, right? I mean, unlike a lot of guys, he can't get any fight he wants. I don't think he can get Justin Gaethje or Michael Chandler right now, per se, right? I think a lot of people are going to selectively avoid this man. I'm not saying those two men are among that class, but he mentioned Rafael dos Anjos, who at least is on a winning streak. He mentioned Tony Ferguson, who is not. I think they got to do that RDA fight, and you got to think Dos Anjos, as game as anybody on the roster, would be willing.
I think it's a fantastic fight. I think it's a smart call out in that RDA has always or seemingly has struggled against guys who have superior takedowns to him. I think RDA is still going to be very tough. He's not going to go away easily against someone like Makhachev, but a former champion in RDA, a guy who is an excellent, well-rounded skill set like RDA. I mean, you get a dominant win or even a win over someone like RDA, and people have to start paying attention at this point. They already are. But the way that he matches up against RDA, I think it was a smart call out on behalf of Makhachev and his team. And I think that would be really interesting. And of course, Ferguson would be a great fight as well. But I don't know. I think there might be more to gain in defeating RDA at this point.
Yeah. And I think the promotion has other plans for Michael Chandler, who Islam Makhachev did softly call out on the post show, as Cody Merrow is alerting me to. But I think Chandler would take the fight if offered. He is not in the business of saying no. I'll tell you, too, about Michael Chandler. He wasn't supposed to work the desk this past weekend. Tyron Woodley was going to work the desk, but he had Jake Paul media obligations, and Chandler stepped up for his debut. So it just goes to show you the guy's not in the business of saying no, and I don't think he would say no. So Islam Makhachev closed about -700, Ken Flo. And when I was talking to people, as highly as I think of Moises, an American Top Team, and Pahumpa, I still thought there was value on Makhachev when he was like -600. And if Islam fought Conor McGregor, like, what would the goddamn betting line be? Would Islam be -400 as the stylistically worst matchup in the top 15 for Conor? Like, what is the betting line if Islam fights Charles Oliveira or Dustin Poirier next weekend? I don't know. I think Poirier might be favored to beat Islam, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I think that the betting public might hit Islam in plus money, and he might close as the favorite. It's a very interesting conversation. Either way, Dos Anjos obviously had the weight cut as the backup, so the calendar should align for those two. Not a lot of appreciable damage taken by Makhachev, so hopefully that's a fight, potentially a main event that we get in the fourth quarter. So my twin brother was in the building for both shows, but he was able to come to the UFC Apex this Saturday night, and so I saw him at the airport after the fact, Kenny, and I said, "What'd you think of the show?" And he looks at me, and he's like, "Dude, there's so many good fighters in the UFC." And I thought it was an amazing thesis statement on sort of the last 8 days in Las Vegas. There is so much talent in the UFC right now, right? Sergey Morozov over Khalid Taha, right? On the prelim portion, like 17-4, an absolutely real problem at 135 pounds. We won't even get to his performance today. Dude, the talent under the UFC banner right now, would you agree, is as good as it's ever been?
It's only getting better. I think Morozov is a great example of that. And you look at the guy he beat in Taha. I mean, Taha was fighting every second of that fight. I mean, he is talented. He is tough. He is good everywhere. But Morozov, just a little bit too good when it came to the grappling portion and how he timed his entries and things like that with his combinations. But, Yeah, and those are guys that people aren't really even talking about. Amanda Lemos. I mean, again, this was a card that was a non-pay-per-view event that really did feature a heck of a lot of talent. So absolutely, I feel like the UFC is the strongest it's ever been.
And we're going to rifle through some of these main card results and try to highlight as many performances as possible. One thing that I did want to point out on the Khalid Taha side. So you may have heard me on the broadcast acknowledge his head coach, Karsten Ringler, whom I've never met. I don't know what the man looks like. And so I got a message from Karsten after the fact. He's like, hey, I appreciate the shout out, but I'm actually back in the hotel room watching because although he tested negative for COVID-19, I guess another team member was positive. So he was not allowed to corner him. So it looked like maybe on show day, Khalid Taha might have lost 2 of his corner men. And I don't think it would have changed the result, but it just goes to show you my corner audio sheet. I don't think was updated that late in the game. So Khalid Taha was competing without his.
That doesn't help. Yeah.
No. All right. Miesha Tate comes back for the first time since 2016 and couldn't have done a whole lot better with this co-main event showcase against the retiring Marion Renault. So Renault is another part of this. At 44 years of age, she retires with 5 consecutive losses, not the way she drew it up for the end of her career. But Miesha Tate looked fantastic physically. Mentally, she's in the best place of her life. There was a lot of toxicity when she retired. You could even see when she retired, the last fight of her career, or that part of her career in 2016, she's like still arguing with Brian Caraway in the Octagon, like after that fight. And that relationship was the source of that toxicity. And this woman is liberated. She is happy and looks a whole lot like a bona fide bantamweight contender. What'd you think of Miesha?
John, you could really see it. I think that having a certain energy about you, having an environment around you where you can be the best version of yourself is so important. It's often overlooked. And sometimes you get caught in these patterns where you're like, hey, this is my normal. I'm just going to deal with this. But you could see that Miesha, when she was fighting back in the day, there was, she just seemed exhausted in every way, shape, or form. Like she was kind of going through the motions at certain points in her career. And this was a happy, a motivated, a passionate Miesha Tate who looked to me to be in the best shape of her life. She was as lean as I can remember. She was getting after it.
It's the breastfeeding.
You do lose weight doing breastfeeding. Yeah. Yes. My wife's in that right now. Yeah. And I think that, just the way that she approached the fight was kind of a classic Miesha Tate fight in that it kind of built to this crescendo. It was like this slow kind of analysis. Then the pressure kind of kicked up a little bit. Then there was more activity and like round after round, grinding it down, putting the pressure on it, eventually getting the finish. I thought was a beautiful performance from her against a very tough Marion Renault.
And it really couldn't have worked out better. She gets the finish, but she also gets almost 12 minutes of fight time. And you might have heard us say on the broadcast, some of you would have been in commercial break, but for the first time in her career, she's the CEO of Team Tate. And I know late in your career, you kind of took total control and made some sort of changes in terms of your inner circle and those surrounding you. And it's just the perfect storm for success right now. I do hope they do the rematch with Holly Holm if they can get that fight made. I think a 5-round main event title eliminator of sorts makes a lot of sense. We'll see. And for Marion Renault, with respect, I just the inability to pull the trigger, I think, reared its ugly head again. And before she could sort of get in the fight, she was out of the fight. And a lot of people suggesting Miesha Tate at -130 was the steal of the century, as Cody Merrow's writing in our chat room, and I don't disagree. But what do you think about Miesha Tate and Holly Holm in a rematch? Does that you want to wet your fucking beak with that, Ken Flo, or what?
I would love to see it. I think, Miesha learned a lot about that fight against Holly Holm. She was losing that fight against Holly Holm, was ultimately able to come back and get the submission win. But I think she knows that she can do much better, having experienced that. I do think Holly Holm is getting better and getting sharper as a fighter as well, though. And she's certainly made some improvements since then. So I think it's a fantastic fight. And again, just to go back to Miesha's last fight on Saturday night, it was great to hear her say that she's not in here just to kind of get a couple more fights. She is in here to get a title fight. That's when you're going to see the best versions of a fighter, when they still have that in the back of their mind that they are there to be a world champion. Miesha is there. She looked the part, and that was great to see. And she can certainly get back on that road with a win over Holly Holm. Two legends going at it. That'd be fun for me.
Miesha's just such a special human being. I think she has the chance to be a special broadcaster, either on the desk or in the booth. She has so much to offer the sport, and certainly as an American, I'm glad she is back stateside and under the UFC banner. And I know we've talked recently about children as motivation, and I have long said, wait till your career's over to procreate if you can help it, right? But Sean O'Malley has said recently that his motivation was maxed out before he had a kid. That as much as he would like to lean into the fact that maybe going in there as a father provides for some extra source of motivation, like he was so goddamn motivated to be world champion that he didn't really feel any difference. Most fighters are on the other side of that, right? Miesha Tate was talking in our fighter meeting, like her son Daxton and her daughter Amaya, like they're part of Team Tate. Like she absolutely brings that in there. And I got to think for you, if you had the chance to compete as a dad, that it's just an extra gear. And that's part of the reason why her fiance, Johnny Nunez, is in the corner for that emotional support. Like she sees him, she sees her children. I don't know, man. I think it's a very powerful thing. And certainly you can't overstate the value of that for Miesha in terms of where she's at in her head right now.
100%. I think there's a reason why you don't see a whole lot of animals get close to a mother lion and their cubs. There's that instinctual protection and motivation is very much there for both men and women, I think, and can definitely provide a lot of motivation.
It's so true. Like I'm deathly afraid of the ducks outside when the mother duck looks at me, or maybe they're geese. She's a little bit big. But she's looking at me like, if you come one step closer, I'm going to put my fucking beak around your trachea. All right. Congratulations to Miesha Tate. Great to have her back in the Octagon. Featured bout in the lightweight division did not go the way Jeremy Stevens drew it up 65 seconds in. He is submitted via Kimura by Mateusz Gamrot. And again, just speaks to the crazy depth in the UFC right now. This is a former two-division KSW champion in Poland. One at featherweight, one at lightweight. He's got 250,000 followers on Instagram. And perhaps until Saturday night, a decent chunk of our viewership had no idea who Mateusz Gamrot even was. What a fucking stud.
Real deal Holyfield, man. Made it look easy. Like that is the sign of a high level mixed martial artist, in my opinion. A guy who does everything that you think he can do, and he does it cleanly. I don't think he took a shot from Jeremy Stevens. Just clinical. He really looked like a surgeon out there. So congratulations to Gamrot. Seems like a fun guy as well, and another guy who's going to pose a lot of problems for people in that lightweight division.
All right, as we continue with our recap of UFC Fight Night, Makhachev versus Moises, we're going 3 wide as we welcome in television's Raymond Peter Longo.
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute. Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Hey, there they are.
Woo!
Yeah.
Oh,
it's Monday morning over here. I don't know what time it is where you guys are. What time is it?
It is. I'm back home. It's 11:03 a.m. Eastern for all three of us right now. We're all back on the East Coast.
No, I think it's time to stop licking McGregor's balls time. Because
I knew that was coming.
You took the whole show down last week. Kenny, we had some classic. I thought we had a very great show. People are telling me a lot of views that I go to look. Nobody's even giving a shit. They're just all on. What did you guys do while I wasn't here? Seriously, what did you do?
They need to hear all the different opinions, right? That's why we have you on here. Keep us straight over here.
I'm trying to build this podcast up, and you guys are trying to rip it down. This is what
we definitely adversely affected your livelihood last.
Oh my God, crazy.
There's no doubt.
Well, if anything, people just bought more Longo shirts because of last week. They're like, this guy.
Right, exactly. Fuck Flo and fuck Yanez.
Can we return our parental advisory explicit lyrics t-shirts and get some Ray Longo minutes? Hey,
well, that's exactly what Khabib said to John in that photo, actually. He was like, I need to get me one of those shirts.
I love it.
Did you see the picture of me and Khabib?
I thought that was great. Thank you very much, John. All
I was looking for is a thank you, right? I mean, I told you. So I don't like to wear stuff with my name on it in like a public UFC setting, right? Like I wouldn't walk into a UFC weigh-in and have like my name on the cover of a t-shirt, right? Like that's just self-serving and just not my style, right?
Right.
So I bought a bunch of the Ray Longo Minute t-shirts. Yes, the Anik and Florian podcast logo is on the back, but I can promote my guy Ray Longo and still subtly promote the podcast. So of course, I'm there with your guy Khabib, who I know you've got so much love for. And he was just staring at my Ray Longo Minute t-shirt the whole time. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Love him.
So why do you have a collared shirt on so early in the morning? I gotta know. Or was that just the shirt that was next to your bed when you rolled out of bed to get your cold brew?
No, it was the shirt that was actually next to my computer when I got there. I'm going solid now. Come on, we gotta. Don't you feel it? Do you feel big things coming for this podcast? Is it just me?
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it.
We got to go collared shirt.
No, I'm really excited about the future. Potential licensing deal coming down. Sorry, Cody, I shouldn't have said that on the air, but no, we're very excited about the future. Yeah, letting it all go today. And every time I see an Anik and Florian podcast t-shirt at a UFC live event, it warms my heart. Fucking Jason Herzog, the referee. God love the guy, right? Shows up to UFC 264. He's boots on the ground on the floor before the fights, wearing an Anik and Florian podcast t-shirt. You know, waiting to the last minute to put on his NSAC black. So we got to love Herzog for that.
Yes.
All right. Lot to get to with Raymond as usual. By the way, it looks as though Merab Dvalishvili, Ali Quinta, and Aljamain Sterling are on their way to Georgia together. And I don't mean Savannah. I mean the nation of. Is that correct?
That is correct, man. That looks like I think Merab, and he wanted everybody to go, which is crazy. But those guys went, and that's gonna. I don't know. That can't be good. It just can't be good.
The bond between
Merab going to swim there? What's he do? Is he going to run there? What's Merab doing?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They're flying?
Yeah, there's a competition. Aljo and Al took a plane, and he's on horseback.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. With a fucking piece of bark in his mouth. So
savage.
I gotta say, man, I know this is a little fluffy, but the bond between those three, it comes through in every video and every interaction. Like I think it helps them all career-wise to an extent that only somebody like you could really talk about. So that was cool to see them all going to Georgia.
And honestly, John, I don't, even Al and Aljo, I think they just know each other the last 7 years, and Merab probably the last 6 or whenever he came in. So it's not like they grew up together. So it really does make me happy when the team's vibing like that, and it's really good to see. And we were all in Atlantic City. They all came down. Al did the announcing for the Ring of Combat, and just had a great time. We had great outcomes. We'll get to that later though, because we had like another string of victories, like another 7.
Nice.
So really, really good stuff.
Good stuff. So what'd you think of the UFC Fight Night? I want to at least get your thoughts on Islam Makhachev and Miesha Tate and a few other performances. What do you make of this Islam cat? Because a lot of people think he's the best lightweight in the world right now.
I'll tell you, it's not even, well, obviously the guy's great, right? He looks good. And I don't feel the domination like a Khabib, but he looks smart. His stand-up looks pretty solid defensively and offensively. He looks like the real deal. So get him challenged a little more, and let's see what happens. But for right now, he's got a great camp, right? And any challenge they put in front of him, he's passing with flying colors and above. So I don't know. He's not going to be an easy out. But you know what's crazy? As I was, you don't even realize who the champ is. He's almost got the aura now that he is the champ, even with the build of the fight. To me, anyway. But and I had to watch the fight when I got home because obviously I was at the Ring of Combat, with my guys Saturday night. So, but that kind of feeling is they're already, they're doing a great job with that. I feel like he is the champ, which is crazy.
Yeah, 8 consecutive wins for Islam Makhachev. Do you guys know who is statistically the hardest fighter to hit in UFC history? Islam Makhachev has the best striking defense of any fighter in any division right now in UFC history. And that's why even at minus 600, I think it's still a little bit juicy, right? Because if you're outlining scenarios whereby Moises wins, he hits really hard, he kicks even harder, and he's really good with his counters. But I felt like he was going to have to land a head kick or something and follow up with punches, and the probability of that to me just seemed very low. Ray, what'd you think of Miesha Tate and her comeback performance? Pretty inspiring, huh?
Yeah, truly, really, really, really happy for Miesha Tate. Look, I think she's a smart fighter. I think the time away did her good. Great to see her get a win and come back. Always liked her. Man, she's been around forever. So she, yeah, it was just one. I think it was like for me, like a feel good moment. I'm glad she got the win.
Do you have a problem with me talking about her breastfeeding on the air?
Was she breastfeeding on the air?
Not on the air, but I talked about it on the air. Do you have a problem with that?
No, why?
Did your wife nurse your 2 daughters, if you don't mind my asking?
Of course she did.
All right. So there
You
you
wanna
go.
know
That's why
why?
you don't have a problem with it. Why?
Because that's my advice to people. You have to breastfeed because if not, they're going to pump that milk in a bottle, and guess who's got to get up to feed them?
Right.
RPL.
Right.
I got it all down, John. I got it.
And we know
all
you
down,
sleep
buddy.
hard. Ray is a deep sleeper,
If
folks.
I had breasts, I'd go feed them. I mean, Kenny,
Yeah.
let this be a lesson to you, Kenny.
Oh,
Breastfeed is the only way to go.
I'm dealing
Breastfeeding
with
is
it
the
right
only
now.
way to go.
yeah,
Yeah, trust me. I've been there.
yeah.
So
Don't put that milk in the bottle. You're the guy, man.
So I gotta say, man, Billy Quarantello out of
Dude.
Buffalo, New York.
Oh,
Ken Flo, I'll have you lead, and then we'll get to Longo on this. Matt Frivola, right in the corner of Billy Quarantello. After round 2, he is so fucking giddy with excitement that his guy is not only just giving it to Gabriel Benitez, but he can feel the bonus. Like Frivola gets up on the apron. He's looking over at Dana White, just like, do you believe this shit? Fucking laughing. Like, I couldn't get enough. And I don't know if you thought that the ceiling on Billy Q, Kenny, was in a certain spot. I think he raised it this weekend. What a response to the Gavin Tucker fight. 4-1 in the UFC and gets a bonus on way to his honeymoon in the Virgin Islands. Got to feel good for Billy Q.
He's a damn savage. Okay, I compared him to a honey badger that just downed a 6-pack of Monster Energy drinks. Like, he does not stop. And if you were to pick a dude of, like, if you had 10 typical UFC fighters and Billy Q was in that lineup and you had to fight one of them, almost 10 out of 10 guys would probably pick Billy Q. You're like, I'd take that guy. He looks like a frat boy from college. Like, he doesn't look that tough. Wrong freaking answer. That dude has a heart and a determination and a skill set that is going to rough you up. Like, you're not getting out of a Billy Q fight, whether you win, lose, without multiple bruises and pain. He is so fun to watch and so impressive and so tough. It's unbelievable. Like, it seems like he starts in 6th gear, ends in 6th gear. He does not stop until one of them are done. I was just really, really impressed.
yeah. I mean, the heart of a lion. And again, when you meet him, that's the way I like people. Soft spoken, humble. But when that door closes, man, tenacious, and you can't stop them. You know what I mean? They refuse to go down. They just, sometimes when he got hit, you could just see him bite down on his mouthpiece and start swinging, like, and not sloppily. You know what I mean? Like, shooting those shot some nice combos. But again, when a guy walks in a room and you don't even know he's there, and then he does that in the octagon, that to me is the definition of a fighter, not an arrogant, jackass.
And Benitez is tough as hell. That's the thing. It's not like Benitez isn't tough and not a good fighter. Billy Q went right at that dude and just overwhelmed him. And you don't see a lot of dudes do that to someone like Benitez.
Yeah, and I think that was the key, though. He caught him, and then he never let him get back in.
Right.
I think if he didn't do that, it might have been a different type of fight. But holy crap! I mean, he took advantage of it, and we knocked him down. They're great, man. He's just a great guy, and happy to see the guy get the bonus. Imagine that you're going on your honeymoon.
Perfect.
It's just beautiful. Great story. A lot of good feel good. Him, Miesha Tate. I really enjoyed watching the fights the day after.
And Kenny, you're right to acknowledge the heart, the toughness of the Mexican Gabriel Benitez, who was in the best shape of his life. I do think sometimes, and we saw it obviously with Sean O'Malley and Chris Mutino, sometimes a referee has just seen a guy take enough and too tough for his own good or whatever it is. And I don't know. I know obviously people had much more of an issue with the Mutino thing, obviously, because he was on his feet and everything else. But I don't know, man. I didn't need to see Benitez take any more punishment. And I think I was aligned with the referee there. We were talking about Mateusz Gamrot, the submission of Jeremy Stevens, Ray, before you came on, and I didn't want to keep you waiting, but it's just sort of speaking to a bigger theme. There's just so much talent in the UFC right now, 35 to 70, that a guy like Mateusz Gamrot, who's like 19-1, right, can kind of fall through the cracks until you get on a main card against a big name like Jeremy Stevens. And, he wants the Americans to know who he is. And I think now a lot of them do.
Well, I think he made that obvious on the microphone for sure. But yeah, great fight, man. I mean, quick, very quick. And, I was listening to you guys before I got on. I definitely didn't know who he was before that, but
right.
I know who he is now. So he made
Kenny, I
most
remember when I used to take jujitsu, going through the progressions of a Kimura sweep to try to escape or whatever. I was not very good at it. Pahumpa would be like, you keep forgetting to post. And it's like, it's my fucking fourth day, Pahumpa, man. Like, God, these jujitsu guys, like, expect us to just memorize every goddamn step of a Kimura sweep in like one class,
Well, remember, it was this morning. I don't know why you're having such difficulty.
All right. Yeah. So, Kenny, what can you tell us? Jeremy Stevens hadn't been submitted, I don't think, since 2009.
Yeah.
What can you tell us defensively or offensively about sort of what went down and maybe what plagued Stevens in this exchange?
Geez, I think that Gamrot did a great job of isolating the arm away from the body of Stevens. And, it's all about position first. He wasn't going to try to get a submission to lose position. He was making sure that he was pinning Stevens to the floor. He was sandwiching him, between himself and the mat very well. And he was waiting for that right opportunity, for the strong Jeremy Stevens to kind of lose focus on that arm. And again, it's a 2-on-1 grip. It's very difficult to break away once you're in that position. And Gamrot was able to get that separation, bring the arm away from the torso, and then crank away. And, Stevens, his arm, once your arm's behind your back, it's very difficult to get that position back. He should have been turning towards Gamrot, not away. But I thought it was a beautiful finish, very clinical from Gamrot.
Hey, by the way, Ray, how about fucking Billy Q calling out the Boston guy, Charles Rosa? Hope Rosa fucks him up now.
I think that's a great fight for Billy Q.
We'll bet on that fight, you and me. We'll figure out a side wager for the Boston, New York angle on that one. Here I am trying to shout out Buffalo.
I'll take that bet.
I'm trying to shout it. Well, Billy Q would be the favorite. But I'm shouting out Buffalo, New York on the call, and then he calls out a Boston guy. I'm like, kind of regret giving Buffalo all that shine. All right. It is at this point of the program that we get to Amanda Lemos. Ken Flo wanted to lead the show with her. So, former Jungle Fight champion, if you don't know, she's undefeated as a strawweight. Only time she's lost was her short notice UFC debut up at bantamweight. She did have an extended suspension, but came into this fight number 14 in the world, Kenny, in what is the deepest women's division, strawweight. And Waleed Ismail told me before the fight that she is a future champion, and she's got a lot of skills. It's not just the striking, Ken Flo. What do you make of Amanda Lemos as strawweight contender?
John, there's a few striking performances that come to mind where you realize they're at a different level. There's like Anderson Silva when he first beat Chris Lieben, where he just like dancing around Chris, counter shots, slipping and ripping, just making it look easy. Like, this is not your regular kind of striker. There's Conor McGregor's performance against Eddie Alvarez, where he just looked like he was head and shoulders above that level, where he's hitting everything he's throwing. He's, getting him to miss punches. He's countering everything. And, there's other striking performances like that. Well, that was one of those that I will remember because it looked like she was so far ahead and so like she walked out, with that energy, like I'm going to destroy you and I'm going to have fun doing it. And she started out with her rhythm. She rips a kick that I don't remember another female throwing one that fast. I mean, it was lightning, and it looked like if she was trying to cut right through her. She threw it again. And then her counter shot going backwards. There's very few people in the UFC who know how to counter fight, who know how to really counter strike at a high level. Amanda Lemos apparently is one of them. The way that she threw that shot going backwards, dude, that was just nasty. And she only missed one of those shots. Out of the 4 punches that she threw, she barely missed that second hook. Everything else landed on the money. And to see someone do that against a pressuring fighter and moving backwards, to me shows that she's a different kind of striker. This isn't your regular sitting out there to brawl. She's a ninja, dude. I'm telling you right now, she's someone to watch, and she could absolutely be a world champion.
Yeah, that fight was stopped way too early.
Well, yeah, we'll get to the stoppage. No,
I don't think so.
A lot of people feel that way. I don't.
She was ready to go. What are you talking about?
No, she was out. She was going to be out on her feet, dude. She wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. See, that's the difference. Yeah. Like, she did get up, but it was. We call that swimming without a life preserver. It's just a matter of time. You're going down again. You know what I mean? So wait, but that kid can hit. Some people just have bricks in their hands. It's a different type of feeling when you get hit by him. It's like, holy shit. And I think she's got bricks in her hands.
And you know what else she has is a fucking squeeze from hell. Like, she executed a rear naked choke in the UFC without even having somebody's back wholly, right? And in her last fight against Lavinia Souza, dropped her with a right hand, dropped her with a jab. Like, she called out Michelle Watterson and Tisha Torres. Torres has the rematch with Angela Hill coming up here in a few weeks. But Amanda Lemos, she's 34, right? She did have the 2-year suspension, if I'm not mistaken. But she is a real fucking problem.
What'd she have a suspension for?
I don't know exactly. What do you mean? The UFC cuts my check. I just brushed that stuff under the rug.
You don't even. Yeah, I mean, Shaq even mentioned it.
Yeah. Wait till we get to the Dillashaw predictions, right? By the way, I just want to tell you guys, in talking to Jeff Nowitzki a few weeks ago, for whatever the hell it's worth, TJ Dillashaw has already passed north of 25 drug tests by USADA.
Yeah, it's worth nothing. Just think, if you want to put a value on it, 0.
What's that?
What's worth nothing. Nothing.
What do you mean?
Too little, too late. They had their chance to catch him before that. They blew it.
Well, so he failed his pre and post fight drug tests surrounding the Henry Cejudo fight for EPO. So a lot of people don't feel like the punishment fit the crime, that he should have gotten either a lifetime ban or more than 2 years, or he shouldn't come right back in what amounts to a title eliminator and a main event. A lot of people are upset. What do you think? I mean, do you think because it was EPO that he should have been banned for life? Since you want to talk about this, Ray?
No, I don't even want to talk about it.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay.
No.
All right. I thought you wanted to talk about it.
They have to punish these guys severely, though. That's for sure. It's not right. It's wrong.
No, I think largely we're aligned. I just I don't know what the solution is. If it's EPO, or would you rather a 3 or 4 year suspension? I don't know. But at least he's passed like 30 drug tests in the last year and a half or so.
I'll leave that up to you and Kenny to decide.
Well, no, it's just somebody said to me, like, I'm not even going to, because I'm soliciting, and Cody, you can get those results for me if you don't mind. But I was soliciting opinion on this main event between Cory Sandhagen and TJ Dillashaw this weekend from our listeners, because I'm absolutely fascinated by the fight. And somebody wrote to me, like, I'm not even going to give you a prediction because I don't know if TJ's been tested since, and so I was happy to at least be able to let him know that he has absolutely been tested. And Amanda Lemos, suspended after her debut loss to Leslie Smith for 2 years. All right, so 66% of like 5,000 responses like Sandhagen, and Dillashaw, 34% for TJ, which sort of dovetails with the betting line. All right, 2 more things with Raymond. I want to hear about your Ring of Combat, guys. And then I want to get a prediction on Dillashaw and Sandhagen. So what happened Ring of Combat? Obviously, it was a successful weekend. 7 of your guys won. Is that right?
Well, I think I left out one of my favorite guys in the gym, Austin Halleck. He's that young kid we talk about, and he helps out all the pros. He had his amateur debut the week before, and he just flawless, beautiful performance. by a young kid. I think the sky's the limit if he keeps his head screwed on right. And then after that, this weekend, we had Charlie Campbell in Bellator. He got the stoppage in the second round. Then we moved on to the Ring of Combat. We had a first fight was a split decision loss. Then Damian Nelson fought a guy out of Jackson Wink. That fight, I thought Damian won the fight. Could have went either way. It was close, but they both of them put on a great performance. Then Dylan Montello, who's undefeated as an amateur, undefeated as a pro. Really expect to see this kid in the UFC soon. I think when they see his highlight tape, there'll be no question. He's got submission wins. He knocked this guy out in 45 seconds.
Wow.
Probably 6'1" at 155, knows how to use his range. Perfect. I kind of compare him to like a Calvin Kattar.
Cater, right.
Cater, sorry. He's got great jiu-jitsu. He's good, Ken. You should take a look at him. Dylan Montello. I think you'll really like what you see. And then James Gonzalez won the Ring of Combat championship against former UFC vet Jeff Lentz. I don't know if you remember him. He was on the show going back years, a couple of years ago anyway. Superior jiu-jitsu, controlled him on the floor. He's got really great MMA jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, everybody did great. They worked their balls off, and we had a great weekend. The team's back up and rolling now that we get some shows going again. So very excited for everybody.
Great to hear. Well, you always have a platform here. As
Oh,
everybody loves Raymond, right? Wasn't that the fucking situational comedy? Everybody loves Raymond, right? Everybody loves Raymond. Must be nice going through life. Everybody loves fucking Raymond. God damn.
Well, Ray, a little alarming results this weekend. How you want to talk about that?
Oh, well, the fights were at the Showboat. Normally we do them at the Tropicana. I'd rather pass, Cody, because I have nothing good to say about that hotel.
Oh, well, give us a Sandhagen Dillashaw prediction then.
Geez, you just cut me right. He's aggravated about. So what did I aggravate you this time about? Tell me.
No, you don't aggravate me at all, and you have all the time that you want. I still have 14 minutes for you right now.
You're mad again. You're upset again.
I'm not. And I very much appreciate the phone call, by the way, after the show last week. I had my twin brother with me in Vegas. We played golf 3 times, so I know I didn't get back to you, but just rest assured that your voicemail lifted me up. So.
Oh, great. Whatever it was.
No, I'm fine. I'm just,
I'm going with Sandhagen. Let me just jump, so I don't want to put you under any more pressure. Aggravate you any further. But no, I'm going with Sandhagen. I like the way he even called him out at the beginning. It seems like they train together, and he feels very confident, and that's good. That's good enough for me without even breaking down the fight. I think there's people that know what happened in the training room, and again, sometimes when you get these guys when they have been doing stuff, and look, I don't know if he does. I always liked TJ. I really don't like the fact of obviously I can't stand it, but he was a nice kid the first day I met him. But this just puts a blemish on
really
everything.
Hard. It's really hard.
It's hard because he's seemed like a nice guy, but they claim he's been doing this shit for years. That was kind of my point before. Like everybody kind of knew it. So luckily, finally he got caught. But sometimes those guys come off and they're not the same mentally either because they become so dependent on it. And I think that fact, and I'm going to leave technicality out of it. That fact, plus I like what I think Sandhagen, first off, he's confident, he's growing. I think he learned from that Aljo loss. He looks like a world beater to me. I love his confidence. I love Sandhagen's disposition also. He's like a Billy Q. They just seem like they're nice guys, but when they get in that octagon, man, they know how to turn it on. And to me, that's the best recipe for being a champion. And I like Sandhagen in this fight.
Yeah, I think he deserves the distinction as the favorite. It is hard with Dillashaw, Ken Flo, right? Because we know the guy, we know his family, right? Great parents, great wife, and but this is hard, right? It'll be a challenge for the broadcast team to call the fight this weekend, right? It's a tricky navigation, and there will always, I think, be an asterisk next to a lot of what he's accomplished. But pre these positive tests, skill for skill, Kenny Dillashaw, one of the best fighters that I've ever seen. So
yes,
all right.
Yeah.
At Ray Longo MMA on social media. What does the rest of your Monday hold, Ray?
I just what every other Monday holds. I close
what a
this,
life, right?
I close this computer. I get something to eat. I head to the gym.
All right. Well,
and I love it.
Enjoy your breakfast. Thank you for lifting up the program as usual. And again, if we retained half our audience, it's because of you. So thank you.
So what you're saying is you're done licking the guy's balls. You're done. Is that it? It's over?
No.
Hey, did you see
If
the
that's-
thing with you see the thing with the doctors disputing that he even had a stress fracture before the fight?
Yeah.
And when things couldn't get any worse, they just get worse and
I
worse
was
and
surprised
worse.
that when I heard handicappers talk about the fight, Moore didn't mention that the leg, was pretty damn compromised in January, and this fight in July was pretty soon thereafter. I think it stood to reason that his leg wasn't going to be 100%. But yeah, you're right. He's probably lying, right? Because the doctor disputes it. Yeah.
Because I know when I'm injured, whatever part I'm injured with, I just start throwing that the first thing when the fight starts. No?
Right.
Yes, no? Wait, hold on. Hey, one other thing. I did another podcast. Somebody was, I think TJ brought up the thing with Rogan interviewing him afterwards.
Right.
He goes, what did I think? I go, the guy tried kicking Dustin in the balls in the fucking face off. Like, it's the same guy. Like, what's different? He was acting crazy. And he just continued to act crazy. You think it was the endorphins or the hormones?
Right. So John Kavanaugh took issue with our live production team's decision to interview Conor.
And I love John. I think, look, John, I swear to God, I've been in the same position, I think, as you are. So it's not that I haven't been there before, but I don't think that had anything to do with it. He was like, again, his actions before the fight were just the same as what he was doing after the fight. No, is that me?
No, that's not you. I mean, I still hear.
I hear crickets.
No, I still hear from athletes and fans about when I interviewed Rich Franklin after he got knocked out by Kung Lee in his final UFC fight. And in my ear, they're like, they want win or loser. I'm walking over to interview Rich Franklin after he was knocked out cold. And sometimes that decision doesn't reside with us. Certainly, if Rogan didn't want to interview Conor, he could have just sort of walked out of the octagon, and then it doesn't happen, and you deal with the repercussions thereafter. Certainly for Joe, that's an easier navigation than for me. If I ignore those imperatives and walk out the octagon, I might lose my job. But I
think he did the same thing with O'Malley that time when O'Malley's foot was whatever happened to him.
His leg wasn't snapped in two, but yes,
Right.
You're right. I think that's a worthwhile example. So Khabib Nurmagomedov, front runner for Coach of the Year right now, huh? How about that?
I think come on, man. You can't argue with that.
He's getting some hardware on this podcast. All right, well, close your computer. Have a great day. It's all
right,
love, man. It's all.
It is love, though, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
It's love.
No doubt.
Tell me you love me in front of everybody.
I absolutely love you, and I take your criticism to heart. Right? Maybe my ball lapping has gone a little too far.
That's what I'm talking about.
Can you close your computer, please?
Henny, can you help me? Henny's been holding in this laugh for about 5 minutes. He doesn't know which way to turn. All right, man.
Oh, right.
Get him out of here.
Have a great week.
There he is. Get the fuck out of here. All right. So I had one other thing in my notes, Kenny, just in terms of all the talent in the UFC, and congratulations to Daniel Rodriguez, who's a hell of a welterweight and, in and out of jail most of his life, father of 4, but he's never stopped working out. He's never stopped working hard. He is an LA kid who subscribes to the Mamba mentality, was a huge Kobe Bryant fan, and that's allowed him to realize a lot of professional success, and I'm really happy for D-Rod. But Mateusz Gamrot, Sergey Morozov, Movsar Evloev, all of whom I believe have ties to American Top Team, right? There's just so much goddamn talent right now in the UFC down here in South Florida at American Top Team. It is just incredible. And I don't know. I wanted to acknowledge American Top Team because what Dan Lambert has built down here is absolutely incredible. And all these coaches, who I know are well paid and deservedly so. It's the culture they've created down here is absolutely incredible. So, all right. It is now time for the pronunciation of the week. It is brought to you by our friends at Canadips as we welcome on our executive producer, Cody Merrow. This is a tough one. So you're 4-8. Casey Williams, our intern, gave you 1-1 last week. You nailed Islam Makhachev. You did not hit on Mateusz Gamrot. But it's nice to see you, Cody.
Well, it's good to see you as well, John. And I understand now why you shave your head, because when you say the pronunciation right and then everyone after you says it incorrectly, I would pull my hair out too. So I appreciate you, John. Thank you for the attention to detail. And I'm sure all the fighters appreciate it.
Well, let me just give you a little insight because I know Bruce Buffer doesn't listen to this podcast.
No,
So
that
I
wasn't a
wanted to-
Bruce either. That's
Well, I wanted to
Bruce
get
dresses too well for me to say anything.
Yeah. So I wanted to get ahead of the Makhachev thing with Buff, right? Because what happens is this is a very hard name, Makhachev, to say, right? And over the course of an 8-hour broadcast with 7 or 8 talking heads, inevitably you're going to hear a lot of our crew say Makhachev, right? Love you, Michael Chiesa, but it's Makhachev, right? So a lot of people would say it the wrong way, and then it becomes habitual for other people on the broadcast. So I got with Buffer earlier in the day, and when he announced Islam right before the fight, he got it right. But his phonetics the other 3 times were not Makhachev. So he was 1 for 4 on his Makhachev pronunciations over the weekend. But who we got today, Cody? We got a fighter who's competing this weekend, July 24th, live on ESPN. She competes in the first fight of the night. Her last name is spelled Belbita. So it looks a lot like Belbita on paper. Cody Merrow, of whom am I speaking?
Well, I feel like you said that. Now I'm going to say it incorrectly, but I think it's Diana Belbita.
All right, let's hear her say it.
Diana, the warrior princess, Belbita.
Wait for it.
Diana Belbita.
Wait for it, folks. I can't hear anything. Should I be able to hear that? Kenny, can you hear it?
Belbita.
I can.
I can't hear it, Cody.
You didn't get any of that?
No, I didn't get any of that audio, but
Weird.
Cody did. Kenny did. So that assumingly means our listeners did.
Belbita.
But
Correct.
it's
No.
Belbita.
Belbita.
Isn't that crazy?
It'll be crazy
Like
that
pizza.
everyone's going to say it, Belbita. So I got facetious when I emailed John. He emailed this to me last week and he goes, okay, here's the pronunciation. I was like, oh, John, it's a little cheesy, don't you think? Huh? You know, like
Yeah.
Belbita. And then I was wrong. So that's what I get for trying to be funny, like go fuck myself, right?
Well, I called a Diana Belbita fight with Paul Felder, and he wrote pizza on his notes, Belbita. So, but that's a tough one. You fall to 4 and 9, but again, right? It's like, and nobody's going to look at TA on the end of a word and think pizza Belbita, but it is Diana Belbita. And that's
Romanian. It's got to pay attention,
for
That's
the
why you got to watch the
pronunciation.
Anik and Florian podcast, so people can get this right. We're trying.
That's right.
Exactly.
We are trying. All right, bonus winners for UFC Fight Night. Fight of the night, no doubter, Billy Quarantella versus Gabriel Mowgli Benitez. And then they went 4 wide on the performance bonuses. Miesha Tate, Adolfo Vieira, Mateusz Gamrot, and Rodrigo Nascimento. What'd you make of the former 5-time world Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, Adolfo Vieira, Ken Flo? The jab was obviously a big factor. He's had to battle a lot of mental demons just to make this walk in MMA 9 or 10 times. Says he's not sure that any fighter fears fighting as much as he does.
Yeah, it's funny for a guy who is built like him and who possesses some of the skills that he has, that he has that kind of fear and that he's that timid, but he's a very soft-spoken guy. He seems like a very nice guy. And I thought this was a pretty solid performance from him. I thought it was good to see, his willingness to kind of get in and get out, throw that jab. He was a little bit too linear for me. There were a couple times where he was moving just straight back or just moving straight in where I thought he would get caught. But I thought it was a huge improvement over his last performance, of course, and looks solid. And, I think with some more training, with some more confidence, he could still be a problem in that division. He's so skilled on the ground. I think he'll continue to get much, much better.
And on the other side, Dustin Stoltzfus is just getting going, very much a developing fighter. And I think he has a bright future as well. And again, I'm a broken record, but it speaks to the depth. Like Stoltzfus might be our number 60th ranked middleweight. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's just the depth is absolutely absurd
Yes.
right now. All right. As you might expect, another UFC fight night this weekend. Main event, Cory Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw. Let's get to the main event challenge.
It's the main event challenge. Anik,
The time is most definitely now.
Florian,
I finish fights. I'm gonna do everything possible to win.
the main event challenge. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
All right, time to make some picks as we welcome on the Duck, Ian Parker, on social media at Ian Parker MMA. Pretty good card we got coming up this weekend, boys. We got 3 main card selections. And then I want some quick picks on the way out. You can go as long or short on the quick picks as you choose, but there are a lot of close fights that I want you guys to be forced to go on the record with. So we will start with the main card bout at bantamweight. 14th ranked Kyler Phillips, minus 280. Raulian Paiva, plus 225. So Paiva moving up to 135 pounds after missing weight for a Fight Island start last July. That night, Ian, he did beat Jalgishu Magulov, although I didn't think he won that fight, but that is neither here nor there. What do you think about Paiva here against the streaking Kyler Phillips?
I think Phillips is someone who should be talked about. That's not talked about enough. That last performance he had was very impressive, very smart as an underdog. A lot of people had him. The wrestling, even his striking has just come so far. I think he gets this done. I'm honestly like, I don't love the line being so high for guys that haven't fought so much in the UFC, but he is a guy that I think will be a problem in this division, and he just keeps getting better. So I'm going to go with Kyler Phillips here.
Kemflo, what do you think? Phillips and Paiva here at bantamweight.
Yeah, I think it's a tough matchup for Paiva. Paiva's got a lot of experience, his reach. He should be the taller guy with the longer reach, and he could potentially use that against Kyler. But I think Kyler's just got way too many skills. The way he puts his game all together, I like Phillips here as well.
All right, co-main event, Aspen Ladd is a minus 190 favorite for her return here against Macy Chiasson, who is plus 160. We'll need the round and the method, guys, as this is the co-main event. So Ladd has been out since December of 2019. It was a TKO win over Yana Kunitskaya that night. Then she tore both her ACL and MCL, prepping for a fight with Sarah McMahon about a year ago. And now she draws Fortis MMA's Macy Chiasson. She has fought and won twice since we last saw Aspen Ladd. Ian Parker, what do you think of the co-main?
This is a lot closer, I think, than the odds are presenting. And I think that's because of how long, Kenny knows what I'm doing here. Aspen Ladd being out for this long with those injuries and being this young, I don't know if she knows how to bounce back so quick. And I think Macy is starting to fight how we all saw her on The Ultimate Fighter, as we projected she would. She's with a great coach and a team at Fortis. I think the value's on her here. I think she's got to use her jab. I think she will be the better striker here. I still think Aspen Ladd is way too predictable, and her striking is a little too slow, a little too wild. She's going to try and get the fight to the ground. I think Macy's got a good ground game as well. This is a very hard one to choose. I'm going to take a flyer on Macy here at these dog odds.
And how does she get it done?
Oh, by decision.
It's always tough handicapping layoffs, especially when it comes to a young developing fighter like Aspen Ladd, because you know how hard she works, and you got to think in theory she would be presenting a totally different version of herself, or at least a better one. Macy Chiasson, Kenny, 9 in the world, trying to take Aspen Ladd's number 3 ranking. What do you think about the co-main?
Yeah, I always look for ways to try to sneak points here and there against Ian, and Ian's really not giving anything away. He's very stingy over the last several weeks. So trying to close that gap to make it a little bit more respectable. I agree with him here. I think that Aspen's being a little bit too overvalued here, number one. Can she win the fight? Sure. But I do like Macy here as well. I think that she has a certain toughness and an ability to execute smart game plans. I think she'll do the same thing here against Aspen Ladd. And I think she's poised to win here by decision.
All right, main event at bantamweight. How fucking good is this? I can't wait to just sit on my couch and not talk for a change. Cory Sandhagen is looking to hurt people in there. His words, not mine, and that is exactly what he has done of late. As such, Ian, he is a minus 190 betting favorite here against the returning TJ Dillashaw. He comes back at plus 160 and comes back to the sport off suspension, last seen January of 2019. What do you think, Ian? Who wins the main event, and how do they get it done?
There's just no way I could take TJ here. I don't know what TJ we are going to get. I was on earlier, I heard what Ray said, and there has been talks that TJ's been on this for forever, and again, let's just say even that he wasn't, say it was a year, 2 years, those were his best years. We saw the evolution in his game when he went over with Bang, and Sandhagen is just something different right now. Not a lot of guys bounce back the way he did after getting subbed out in a big spot by Aljo, and I mean, what he did to Frankie, what he's just been doing in general, the confidence level, his IQ is just through the roof. He keeps getting better and better. And I think this is a rough matchup for TJ. Listen, TJ wants to prove to the world that stuff was just for healing powers, I guess. Because a win over Sandhagen gets him right back into the title picture. But for me, this is Sandhagen's time. I would not have done this if I was TJ. I would have done something a little bit down the pecking order just because a 2-year layoff in general. Also, he's never had that in the UFC or in his career in general. Give me Cory Sandhagen. Oh man, to say he's going to finish TJ is kind of tough. I don't even. It's Monday, so it's a tough one here. Let me go Sandhagen by TKO round 2.
I don't think you could give TJ Dillashaw a tougher matchup coming off of suspension, maybe like Miranda, but it was January of 2019, Kenny. Dillashaw was vying to become a 2-division champ at flyweight. Henry Cejudo knocks him out in 32 seconds, fails both pre- and post-fight drug tests for EPO. And despite the fact that he has passed a lot of drug tests since, a lot of people don't want to give him any sort of fair shake. He's getting a huge fight in his return. Ken Flo, how do you see it going down this weekend?
You know, this is a tough one. I think I agree with what Ian said. What's his mind state going to be like knowing that he's going into potentially his first pro fight in a long time without EPO, a substance which allows you to not only push harder, longer in training, but push harder, longer during a fight. In the back of your mind, knowing that, hey, maybe I can't keep that same pace. What's going to happen when I get into those 4th and 5th rounds when I'm not on? I don't know. Is that something he's dealing with? It's quite possible. I think that's kind of one of the big negatives with someone who uses is now what happens when you don't have that. So mentally, it's going to be a challenge, a big hurdle for him. Skill-wise, though, if it's the same TJ Dillashaw skill-wise, he can win that fight. He can win that fight against Garbrandt. He's got a ton of big fight experience. He's had his back up against the wall before. TJ has some real skills that can be very confusing for people. However, I think it would be very difficult to go out there and after this long layoff with everything and go out there and beat a guy like Cory Sandhagen, who has been very active, who's going to have a height and reach advantage out there, who's been putting it together very well, and who also has knowledge of TJ Dillashaw of what he does. That is a huge advantage. You know, a lot of people talk about secrets, about experience being the ultimate currency in combat. I think secrecy is one of the ultimate currencies in combat. And when you know more about your enemy, when you know more about your opponent, that is a huge advantage. I like Sandhagen here as well. Let's go with 4th round TKO Sandhagen.
Ken Flo likes Cory Sandhagen by round 4 TKO, and there is no overstating how much value that Aljamain Sterling loss had for Cory Sandhagen. He effectively flipped the switch thereafter, and a lot of elite bantamweights have paid the price. All right, some quick picks on the way out. Fight a lot of folks are talking about at bantamweight, Ken Flo. Adrian Yanez minus 195 against the Zohan Randy Costa, who's plus 165. Who do you have there?
I'm going to go with Yanez.
IP, Yanez Costa.
Same.
All right,
like
at middleweight,
well.
at middleweight, close fight numbers-wise here. A couple of Remember the Show guests. Punahele Soriano minus 125, Ian. Brendan Allen plus 105. Anything for us on this one?
Yeah, this one's tough. This to me is, does Brendan Allen get this fight to the ground quick, or does he get boxed into the shadow realm? And I just think that Soriano's got such a good coach in Eric Nissick that they've been working on that takedown defense. I'm going to go with Soriano here.
Kenny, you know how good Allen's submission game is, and his all-around game is certainly improving, training at Sanford MMA, but what people talk about this Punahele Soriano as if it's just something different, you know? What do you think about Puna and BA?
Yeah, it worries me that Allen also kind of will get comfortable on the feet and sometimes gets a little too manly. So, that could come back to haunt him here. I like Soriano here.
All right, big fight for a couple of ranked women at flyweight. Miranda Maverick minus 135, Macy Barber plus 115. Ian, any strong lean on this one?
Yeah, I'm going to take Miranda Maverick until she loses. With Macy, I'm a big fan of Macy Barber too, but that last fight, she kind of I didn't see any improvements. I saw what happened to her last time, and I think Maverick is just a bad matchup for her all around. So I'm going to go with Miranda here.
Ken Flo, Maverick Barber, who you got?
Maverick.
At featherweight, Darrick Minner and Darren Elkins. Minner is the favorite, Elkins the dog. IP, what do you got?
I'm going to go with Minner.
Ken Flo?
Yeah, I like Minner here as well.
All right. If you want more from the Duck, he is at Ian Parker MMA. Thanks for being nicer to me than fucking Longo today. My God.
Yeah, I mean, You don't look too happy to begin with. So the last thing I'm going to do is
I'm
think
fine.
about Connor.
I'm okay. No, I'm good.
Look, we moved on. That's just a fight that was in the past. It happened many hours ago. We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to talk.
Nice to see you, Ian. And maybe we'll get a cup of coffee here in the next few weeks. I'm back in South Florida for about 20 days. So thank you for your contributions. And we will talk to you soon, my friend.
You got it. Be good, guys.
See ya.
All right. AnikFlorianPodcast.com will link you to the video, the audio, FlowTube, which is Ken Flo's YouTube channel that he still reluctantly refuses to change the name from Kenny Florian to FlowTube, but a lot of good stuff on FlowTube. Merchandise link also at AnikFlorianPodcast.com if you want the Longo shirts or the parental advisory explicit lyrics shirt. We are back next week. I can't wait to see what happens with Sandhagen and Dillashaw. I think it's going to be a tough week for TJ with the media grind and everything that he's going to have to deal with. I know he's not cutting a flyweight anymore, but I think it is going to be a taxing fight week. And then your reward at the end of it is that they lock you in an octagon with Cory Sandhagen. So we'll see how it all plays out. We're back with you next Monday to recap that. And obviously look ahead to Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland coming up to close out the month on July 31st. Thanks to Ray Longo, Ian Parker, our executive producer, Cody Merrow, and all of you for sticking with us through 309 episodes. Until next Monday, for Ken Flo, I'm John Anik. Don't text and drive. Yo, fucking later.